All right, welcome everybody. It's not so much that it's that cold in Austin, it's just that the heat isn't working in the studio today. So I'm trying to stay warm. It might even right now actually be warmer out if I went outside in the sun than if I stayed in here. But it feels cold, so that's why I'm in Bohemian drag today. Okay. Well, today we're going to start working on arranging Matchbox Blues. So if you know how to play the tune, like if you've worked on just playing the 12 bars of the melody, you may be thinking like, okay, great, I have these 12 bars. How do I make it sound like a real song? That's what we're going to work on today. I'm going to talk about 4 different ways, sort of big picture, that we can look at the arrangement. Those of you who've been around for a while, some of this is, the first part of this is just a bit of a review. But if you're new, hopefully this will help to explain what we're doing here. And then this week, we're going to do something a little bit new, where instead of just saying, here's the vamp, go ahead and learn it, I actually took the vamp, created a new vamp and kind of took it apart with some permutations, kind of like we did the improvisation material in October, so that if you want to start using the vamp as a place to improvise, you can start to see how that works. So we're going to look at a basic vamp and look at some variations on the vamp, and then look at some permutations, ways we can mix and match those elements. And that way you'll have some idea how to start learning some different vamp licks, basically, that you can mix and match, kind of like I was doing during my own intro and outro just now. So leave comments in the chat as we go. We're just going to basically cover these 4 arrangement schemes, and then the vamp material this week. Next week we'll get into the shout chorus and the accompaniment. So thanks to Eric, who helped catch a bunch of typos, and a couple other people also caught some of them. I got them, most of them corrected. So if you don't have version 1.1 of the PDF, you can go and get it now. I did miss one that is still in there that I didn't get a chance to fix. So I'll point that out when we get there, and hopefully have it fixed for next time. Okay, so let's get into the arranging. So a vamp is just a short repeated figure, and the advantage of knowing how to play a vamp is that you can expand or contract it as much as you want. So if you have this kind of figure just going back and forth between a 1 chord and a 4 chord with a little rhythm on the 3rd string, you can play that once, you can play it 20 times, it doesn't really matter. That's the kind of idea I'm talking about when I say vamp, right? It's a short repeated figure, and you can use it as an intro. You can use it to kind of tread water in the middle of an arrangement. You can use it at the end. We're going to get into those in just a minute. We had some back in September. I'm going to give you a new one today to work on. But so the simplest way you can start to build out the tune is if you know the fundamental version, just the 12-bar melody. Not even doing any of that fancy groove stuff. Just keeping the thumb alternating, right? And I've been playing this like at a pretty hot clip. It doesn't have to be played nearly this fast. I'm trying to stay warm, so I'm playing everything faster. But so the simplest thing you could do is just play a vamp, play the fundamental version of the melody, come back to play the vamp, play the fundamental, and then vamp again. And that gives you like a nice little 5-step arrangement, which would, take maybe a minute and a half to play. I haven't timed it, but so if you had... So 4 times around on that 1 to 4 chord thing. And then play the melody. vamp again. And then the second time through the melody. If you did know the embellished version, you could start to go to that now, or you could just repeat the fundamental. And then here's the vamp again. And there is one thing with the vamp, especially on a tune like this, where since the last two bars are just keeping time, right? You could wait till the end of bar 12 of the melody to start your vamp, or you could jump in at the top of at the end of bar 10, beginning of bar 12. So and start your vamp, kind of just like cut off those last two bars. That works if you're playing by yourself. If you're playing with other people who are expecting to play the 12-bar form, obviously things are a little bit different. You'd have to coordinate that ahead of time if you wanted to do that kind of thing, or you could just not do it. But that's a really great way to start with some very simple materials and start to create some shape and an actual tune. Here is sort of the classic 7-step arc where it assumes you know. Well, no, actually, we haven't even gotten to that yet. This is the next step you would take with the fundamental. Play the vamp, play the fundamental arrangement, play the vamp, play a model solo. So instead of improvising a solo, go back into last month's Fundamentals of Improvisation, Volume 4, and learn one of the model solos, either the rhythmic contour model solo or the lyric form mixed resolutions version. So instead of thinking you got to improvise a solo necessarily, you could start by memorizing a solo and then dropping that in as part of your arrangement to build out something more complete sounding. So you get the sound of the vamp, the fundamental, return to the vamp, and then, oh, a variation. It's the solo. Especially if you've done the rhythmic contour solo, it sounds like a variation on the melody. It's got the same rhythms as the melody, but it's different licks. So that sounds like a B section or a different variation. Back to the vamp, repeat the fundamental again, and the vamp, and you're out. So you hear a lot of vamp, but you could keep it short. And then, in between, you can see there's this nice kind of arc to it that peaks with the solo right in the middle of the arrangement, opens with the vamp, goes into the tune, vamp, do the solo, vamp, do the melody one more time out to wrap things up, vamp on your way out. Very satisfying and complete. So if you're going to do the vocal version of the tune, if you're going to sing, which I know not everybody is, but if you were, next week we're going to look at a very simple and practical kind of accompaniment technique. So the thing about the vocal version is the change in the lyrics does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, right? Because you can have basically the same music going on in a series of verses that are telling the story. A lot of what we're trying to do with the arranging that we do here is deal with the fact that we don't have the lyrics moving things forward. So we got to move it forward musically. But here we could have the vamp, and then you could sing the first verse or the first couple of verses. And now the fundamental or the embellished are going to act like an instrumental break, right? It'll sound really slick. If you start out and you sing a couple verses, then you go to the guitar and you just play the melody on the guitar, it's going to sound cooler than what 80% or 90% of most singers are able to do on the guitar, right? So you'll be way ahead. So you play the melody, you sing a couple more verses, now you take a solo. And again, even if it's like a memorized solo, it'll sound super cool. And you can put that in as a placeholder and then gradually start working with those permutations we did last month to slowly start to swap in some licks. A couple more verses like a song does, and then you vamp out. So really satisfying, gives you a way to incorporate the guitar stuff we've been doing with doing the words. And so this will sound really complete. Man, did I not include just like a regular? Oh, I skipped this page. I should have done this first. This is the original recipe. Do the intro as a vamp, play the fundamental version of the melody, then play the embellished version so it feels like an enhanced or a varied version of the melody, then go to your solo. That gives this whole ramp up from vamp to basic melody to embellished melody to solo, and then shout chorus. So the shout chorus is a worked out way to play through usually the first 4 bars of either an 8 or a 12 bar blues. And again, we'll get to the shout chorus next week. And so this is like really kind of going like this. It just kind of, each step kind of takes you up 1 through 5. And then you either come back to the melody and then vamp out, or you drop back to the vamp and play the melody out. But this is yet another way of doing it, especially if you're doing it all instrumental. Let's see. Dan, question, is there a good way to set up the mixed resolution solo? It sounds kind of odd if everything else mirrors the melody. Yeah, let's talk about that towards the after we do the vamp material here today, because I'll have to go back and pull that part of the PDF up and check it out from last month. Yes, there is a way to do it. But if I don't remember to bring that up, just put it in the text again, in the chat again, and we'll get to it. Okay, so this vamp is basically a measure of A, using this little A bar chord with the index on the 2nd fret, from the 4th string up to the 1st string. And we're going to go to a D 7 chord with the F sharp in the bass, but we're only going to bother grabbing 2 of the 3 notes at the beginning. So we're basically, you could also grab the A like this, with the middle finger on the 5th and the ring finger on the root. So what we've got, the thumb, if we just take this first one and break it down, the thumb is just going 5th string, 4th string, 6th string, 4th string. So just on an A chord, here's what we've got in this example called on the 1 chord. And I'm doing some palm muting, but I'm not bothering to do any left hand damping. So now we've got this syncopation on top, right? So if we look at just the notes with the stems pointing up, or just the top part of the tab, we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Right, so starting off on the downbeat of 2, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. So now we're going to put that together. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and. Sorry, don't play that on the back end like I just did. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and. And now without any talking, it sounds like this. Just try it on the 1 chord first, and just get that to swing a little bit, because you're using a shuffle rhythm. And I think, Tracy, I'll answer your question about 12/8 a little later as well. Now the next thing to do is to switch to the 4 chord in the 2nd measure. So you just work on this first, just getting that syncopation without worrying about changing chords. Once you're comfortable with that, all you're going to be doing is moving over in the 2nd bar to 6th string, 4th string, 6th string, 4th string, and the middle finger is moving from 2nd fret on the 4th string to 2nd fret on the 6th string, going from the 5th note of the A chord to the 3rd in the bass of the D chord. So we're going to have, isolate just the bass and do that. Right, so we're just going between A and D over F sharp, and then put the syncopation in on top of that. Then the next thing thing to do is to change one of those notes that the melody is playing, that the index finger is playing. So we're actually going to go up, we're going to change the last note on the and of 4 to a C. So we're going to have the exact same rhythm, just the middle finger's now going to grab the C over on the first fret of the second string. So now there's some more motion over here, right? Because we're going from here. Right, we got to get over to the, on the and of 4. 1, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. So you're kind of slowly piecing together the D7 chord as you go. That's this third example on the page. And then I bet you can imagine where this is going to go. Now on the downbeat of 3, we're also going to change that note. And we're going to use the same one. We're going to use a C picked with the middle finger. So now we're going to have 1. So it's the exact same rhythm we started off with. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2. And over the bass, ha. All right, so just slowly building up some variations. And come on, man. There we go. Okay. And then, oh yes. So now we're going to play a different note on the and of 4. So we're going to keep this note here. And then on the and of 4, we're going to go to a D on top. Again, all the same rhythms, thumbs doing the same thing, just changing one note at a time. So now we have... slow that down. Right? And then we're going to go to yet a different note. Here we'll go to the open high string, to the E note here. Again, everything else is the same. So that gives you the sound of a D9 chord, because E is the 9th over the D chord. So So we have 3 or 4 variations for what to do with the melody. And then these last 2, we're going to shorten things. And we're just going to, the last note we play with the fingers is going to be on the and of 4. And then we don't play in this bar at all. We don't play these notes on the and of 1. So that gives us this in this example here. So all the index and middle are doing is 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So Then, of course, we could change this note here on the and of 3 and go up. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, which over the bass gives us 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 2. Right? So we have all of these, and what is nice is that the first 6 of them have this longer rhythm that goes to the and of 1 in measure 2. And then the last 2 have this thing where they end on the and of 4. So if you put them together, put 2 of those together, like in this first row, variation number 1, we have this. So call and response, we get this lick that goes up, and we answer it with just that. So I'll play that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm palm damping, palm muting, but I'm not worrying about that left hand craziness that we were doing in some of the previous vamps. Here's another way we can put together, and these are all just this whole page is put together just with the licks on the previous 2 pages. But it's always a lick that goes to the and of 1, followed by a lick that ends on the and of 4. So here's variation number 2. Again, let me slow that down. 1. And then here is a third possibility. There's the other mistake in the handout. This should be in parentheses. We don't pick this again, right? It's a held note in the notation, which means this should be in parentheses. I'll fix that for next time. So this one sounds like this again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, variation number 3. And then finally, with a hammer on here, we have variation number 4. And then repeat the hammer on. I guess I didn't write this one out yet. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Oh, did I? Yeah, no, I didn't do any. So this one's new. Must have thought of this after I did the examples. So we're going to play right, a hammer on from the flat 7 to the root. And so everything's kind of bunched up a little bit. You have to use this form instead of the bar, because you're going to pick the bass and then pick the 4th string and pinch with the 3rd string and then hammer on. And then everything else is business as usual. So here's the whole example, example 4. Now there's the dashed line down the middle, which should go all the way down. I missed that also. But basically that means you can start with any one of these over here on the left and end it with any one of these over here. So if you want to practice them, I'd say, start with variation 1, measures 1 and 2, answer it with these 2 measures, go back and do this again, and then answer it with these 2 measures, do this one and answer it with these 2 measures, do it and answer it with these 2 measures. then start with variation number 2 and answer it with this one and with this one and with this one. This is just a way of practicing improvising, right? What improvising amounts to in a situation like this is just being able to like swap these different things on the fly. And you can practice doing that. For instance, if I just start with variation 2, and now I'll answer it with variation 1. Now I'll play variation 2 beginning again, and I'll answer it with the same line by answering it with this one. Now I'll play this one to this one. Sitting and doing that, now we've got, what is that, 16 measures of vamping. And when you just start to play those with each other, just changing up which one you start with and which one you go to, I mean, you could just jump all around. You could go here to here, and then do this one to this one, and then do, I don't know, this one to this one, and this one to, you know, like, you could just keep going once you have these in your head, or add different ones, because I'm really just messing around with the blues scale on top and that one rhythm. I threw in a couple extra ones, but basically just using that vocabulary. And so, you know, just having things in these little modular sections means you can practice moving around between them. And as you do it, you'll get more familiar with the whole idea, and you'll start to remember which ones are which and be able to start messing around with them yourself. One more thing we can do is add in some baseline variations. So I think this is the exact same thing as the previous page. Let me double check. Yeah, I think these are the same licks as, same licks as the previous page. But I took each line and put in one of 2 baseline variations, and I highlighted them. So here we're adding in this, we're going from the 5th to the root, the flat 7, and then back. So instead of just playing, if you look at this previous page, hey, come on. Instead of just playing the last 2 notes of the D chord here, the F sharp and the D, now we're going to basically be thinking already, like, are these part of a D chord? No, they're leading you back into the A chord, right? Just like that. So if we just isolate these 2 bars, we've got, so we really only play D for 2 beats, and then we play this bass line coming back in. So we could play this whole thing like this. Alternatively, we could play that flat 7 and play a little chromatic note up to A. So again, leading back into the A chord almost as soon as we've gotten to the D. So in that case, we'd have, like if we play this whole one, we'd have, and you have to kind of let go of the chord and just play. And I guess what I'm doing, using the underside of my finger here to kind of just flatten out and damp everything else, but press down on the low string and get the note that I want. So 6. And then, of course, you could put them in the first half. So here's the 5th flat 7 one that we had over here, but now I've stuck it at the end of the first time through the vamp. So measure 2. So here's variation 7, sounds like this. Again. And then here's the G to G sharp, right? Flat 7 chromatically up. Moved from here at the end to here at the end of the 2nd bar, not the 4th bar. So here's variation number 8. And then, of course, you can mix and match these, which means depending on how you do it, you could end up with, no bass lines if you went from here to here, or 2 bass lines if you went from here to here. So if we did the beginning of variation 7 and then went to the end of variation 5, we'd get this. Right, going from here to here. I'll do it one more time. 2, 3, and... And of course, we could go, say, from here to here, and then we'd get both kinds of bass lines, right? So if we start with 7 and end with 6, we get this. And then we could have vice versa. We could have this one and end with this one. If we started with 8 and ended with 5, we'd get this. Right? So I've tried to write it out as specifically as possible so that you could sort of see what it looks like all kind of wired together. Instead of just saying, well, you could do this or this or this or this, wanted to give it like very specific notated way so you can go back and practice it. But basically those bass lines can go in the last 2 beats of the D chord anytime you want. So whatever you're doing, like a little mini improvisation within the vamp, right? Those last 2 beats, what can you do? Can you do other stuff? I mean, probably you could. But those are just 2 good ones to start with because they're simple. Your thumb's going to be on the low string anyway, so it's not that hard a move to adapt to. And it ends up putting a little bit of a spin on the end of each time through the vamp and a little bit of a surprise. So that's basically all the material for this week. It's plenty to work on. And again, we've done a lot of vamps over the last, 4 years? But I've always sort of said, well, yeah, and of course then you could improvise over the vamp, but we never really stopped to really spell out what that would look like, I don't think. So this is the beginning of that. Yes, I am kind of emphasizing the bass beats. They're kind of standing out, right? Because that's all you hear. And so I guess I'm putting a little bit of weight on it. And maybe playing them a little bit staccato, as the classical cats say, like like relaxing my grip after I pick the note. Instead of playing, either one's good. That sounds good to let them ring. That sounds kind of nice too, to make them shorter and sharper. There's a lot you can do with it. Again, I'm trying to like convey the specifics of how to do something improvised. So all I can do is present many possibilities and say, you could do it this way, you could do it that way, you could do it this third way, and then give you some choices to make. The formula for a vamp is repeating 1 and 4 chord while utilizing the blues scale that the song is in. That's the formula for this particular vamp. But there are a lot of ways to do it, right? I mean, we've even had different vamps for this song already. I mean, that's like the embellished vamp from September, and this is really just keeping the bass going and just fooling around with this A7 chord. It doesn't go to the 4 chord. But then we do have that same kind of bass motion. So that's a different idea. But yeah, I mean, really for any blues tune, you could apply this idea from today almost anywhere. Yes, like rocking between 1 and 4 and then playing some blues licks over it. I mean, sure, totally. I mean, even if you have like steady bass, right? Or let's see, let me not play Trouble in Mind for like the millionth time. Like, right, so that's, you got to move, and in E with a steady bass. And after I get done with the turnaround, yeah, I'm playing 2 beats of E and 2 beats of A. And as long as I have a bass doing what it needs to do, I can also get some chords. Chord, A7, sorry, E chord, A7, or I was just using this, so like using these chords, and then where's the space? It's really just and 4 and 1. Licks. Yeah, so, oh, you're trying to come up with a vamp for stock time. At first I thought you said Stockholm, like I'm over here in Stockholm, don't bother me, I'm trying to come up with this myself. No, stock time, yeah, so is that this one? That's the one that John Hurt calls stock time. But so if you've got something like that in C, I don't remember if it goes to the G or the F. But there, it's kind of got a vamp built in, right? Because he sort of sits there on C and F, right? we've got a little space there. You really got the first 2 beats of each C chord. So, I mean, because you got to make the F chord, right? If you're going to do it that way. But you could just be like, you could make it broader, like C, C, F. And so all I'm doing now is just a rhythmic idea of and middle on strings 3 and 2, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and look, it's almost the same. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and it's similar. Okay, someone asked me to do this last time, so here's the guitar. Sorry, I should have turned off the tab a while ago. So I'm just doing here. So first I'm doing a bar of C, a bar of F. Index and middle in. And if I want to make it a little funkier, I'd play the F chord like this with the flat 7. And then putting the bass line on beats 3 and 4. We've got the groove, and then can we put anything on top? So just trying to find some simple blues licks. And then maybe flat 7. C7 chord. Oh yeah, so there's like a chromatic walk, just like we had in the other tune. Flat 7, major 7, so. Emphasize the flat 7 to the 3rd. And still with that same underlying rhythm. And then this is a little trickier, but like some blues licks. So you have to sort of fake the 4th string. Not really getting any real notes there, kind of damping and scratching with the backbeat. And then actually playing the F chord. I know there's some questions to get back to, plus this one. What are you playing on top? Notes. What you're playing on top is notes from the blues scale? Yes. So really simple, just like the root and the 5th and the flat 7. That's what's sitting there without reaching, right? Or the fifth. And then when I go to the F chord, I'm actually playing the third of the F chord. And then yeah, so basically blues notes. Hey, comment from Jan. Yeah, you know, so this is my, I will get to these questions, but let me just put this out there because I started talking about this a little bit on the forum with Todd and a couple other people. I do want to do alternating thumb blues in C, and I was actually going to do, I had a John Hurt tune in the queue, but I know that F thumb is kind of a deal breaker for some people, and this only really works if you can execute the F in the bass. The thumb, if you can get that F note with the thumb in the bass. So I didn't want to spend 3 months on a tune that somebody might say like, oh, you know, I just can't do the thumb. It's a non-starter for me. So I'm kind of torn because I feel like we definitely, like doing alternating thumb and fundamentals of improvisation on like for C is like totally, we should do that, right? Because like a lot of tunes in C, and the question sort of arose because there are some old lessons on the YouTube channel where I basically did like Mississippi John Hurt, like with blues licks up the neck, you know, because it's something I really like to do. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. I'll make a more general post on the forum about it. Just kind of get a sense of, you know, where that is, where people are at with that. But anyway, good question. And I hope, that was Jim with the question about stock time. So I hope that helped. Okay, there were some questions earlier on. What were they? Got about 10 minutes left here. I want to get to these. Oh yeah, so from Tracy. Is a 12/8 swing the same as a 12/8 shuffle? 12/8, you see stuff written out sometimes in 12/8, but really the convention is usually to write it as swing eighth notes, right? 12/8 implies it's like that, it's like a, you know, like when you hear a slow blues that goes, let's see. Right, and like the ride cymbal is like hitting all 12 notes, like ding, 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 ding. Like that's a 12/8 feel to me. It's like a slow blues thing. And there is a similarity between like, you know, the triplet feel and the shuffle thing. But when you get the, I mean, you could break that down as, but you're really playing the first and the third note of every triplet. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a, as opposed to and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. So when you have that slow blues thing, the bass is often just playing quarter notes. And then on top you hear like, that's the difference to me, is the 12/8 implies more of that slow blues thing where like someone's actually spelling out the 12/8, the triplet feel. I mean, same thing. It's like also Fats Domino, right? You know, my knowledge of Fats Domino is about like a millimeter thick, but you know, that's that New Orleans thing, that New Orleans piano thing from the 50s, that 50s rock and roll New Orleans thing is 12/8. It's not, yeah, it's not, well, I don't know. I have exhausted the depths of my understanding of the topic. So I don't know that song, so I'll have to check it out and get back to you on that. But I'd be happy to, because that sounds interesting. Okay, there was one other question in here. We talked about that. Oh, the mixed resolution solo. Yes. Okay, let me pull up that PDF real quick. Give me a second here. Let's see. I go for FOI, Fundamentals of Improvisation, and the internet wants to give me foie gras. That's not what I had in mind. Let's see. October 2022. No, I want 2023. Here it is. October 2023. Gimme. Is this it? I hope so. Oh, come on, guys. Hold on. Chat amongst yourselves. Okay, October 2023. Where is it? There we go. Come on, man. Where is the PDF? There we go. Okay. Yes. All right, let me get that on screen. And hang on. Lose this guy, get this guy. So smooth and professional. Okay, so we wanted to look at oh, here we go. Let's see. The mixed resolutions. Okay. And the question was about sort of integrating that, right? Is there a good way to set up the mixed resolution solo? Sounds a bit kind of odd if everything else mirrors the melody. Yeah, so let's see. If we're playing, let's see. We're coming up on the turnaround. It doesn't sound that weird to me because I'm thinking of it as a solo. And so I'm thinking like, well, we had the melody and then here comes someone taking the solo. And like, it would make sense for someone to kick it off like that and maybe play like in a bluesier vein. So I'm not sure. I feel like I'm not really addressing the question except to say that it doesn't sound that odd to me. But if you think of it as a solo, then it would be a little odd. Maybe, but also like just, it's supposed to provide some contrast. If you don't really like how it sounds, then stick with the rhythmic contour version of the solos, and you'll be okay. But again, like just coming out of the after the melody. You've got all this space at the end of the turnaround, right? You've got 2 bars. And then, but yeah, you could, like Jan said, you could also like hit a chord at the top of measure 12. So I feel like, I don't know. Tell me more about what you're asking if you have time or if you want, because I would like to provide a more satisfying answer. Sorry about the clocks. Yeah, we don't have daylight savings until this weekend. It didn't occur to me that in addition to not using the metric system, we also apparently are on a different clock system than you guys. Sorry about that. By next week, we should all be in sync. But that's a bummer. I'm sorry if you guys missed the stream. So I'll just wait for a second to see if there's any more about that with the mixed solo, and if there's not, then we'll wrap things up. Next week, here's a little. Let me see if I can pull this up again. Here's a little preview of the shout chorus, because I can see where that might be helpful to kind of hear what that sounds like. Where did it go? So the shout chorus, just in case you're curious. So the idea of the shout chorus is just to have like a little halftime break at the beginning. Yes, I'm just about to do that. The stop time. Yeah, I can. Let me try to squeeze that in too. Okay, so the idea of the halftime bass is that now you're playing. So instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 4, you're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, to provide some contrast. So it's a different kind of shout than we've had before. And on top, you have some licks. One of them, I guess there's a syncopation there I missed. And then the other one, which is ascending and then descending, is... Oh, wait, there's a little quick bass thing, isn't there? Super fun. The bass is going like this. Just real basic, sort of swing era bass line kind of thing. And then the melody. So totally like just a riff thing from like a jump blues band or something. And then together. Slow them down. And then, so you want to know what the licks sound like. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff here. Let me just play through the 4-note units, right? So we have, so I'll just play, here's A, and here's B, and then here's C, and here's D. Or I put these notes in parentheses. You could, if depending on where you're going, it might help to play like that, right? Or if you're going here, or something like that. So here's E, and here's F, and here's G, and here's H, and here's I, and here's J. Here's K, and here's I, or no, it's L. And so, of course, 12 possibilities. We're going to put them together in different ways. Generally speaking, the ones on the first row lead to the ones on the second row, which lead to the ones on the third row, or vice versa. These ones kind of can lead up to these, which can lead up to these. But in the examples, you can sometimes go from within the line also. So I just tried to give a lot of different examples, and we'll go over all those not next week, but the week after. But I also wrote out a couple of solos. So, these are all built out of licks that we have elsewhere. Like these are all built out of those 12 little 4-note licks. So I'll talk more about the whole philosophy behind that next time, or when we get to that as well. I don't have these on screen. God damn it. Let me do this again. Sorry. Here, let's try that one more time. I'm really kind of scattered today. Here we go. One more time. Here are the licks. Here's A, and here's B, and here's C, and here's D, or to the note in parentheses. Here's E, and here's F, which could also go to, and then here's G, and here's H, and here's I, which could also go to, in parentheses, and then here's J, which could also go to, in parentheses, and then here's K, and here's L. Right? So what I was saying before when this wasn't on screen is like these guys kind of lead to these ones, which kind of lead to these ones, or these ones kind of lead to these ones, which I guess maybe also lead back up to these. But in some of the written out examples, I went within a row also, like from B to C to F or whatever. So I tried to, in these individual breaks, I sourced where everything comes from, right? So I explained how stuff is strung together by letter. So all these licks are made up of these little units, and then I put in like where I do the hammer-ons. Anything that's a slur, either a hammer-on, a pull-off, or a slide, and you can usually tell from context which one it is. And then when you put them into the solo, like here's one of the breaks, and then here's the model solo from last month. And usually you would put a bass note. Right? And you'd put a bass note just on the beginning of the downbeat. So that's what one of those breaks sounds like. I'll play that one again, even though we're going to go over this more. Here it is, just if you want to be listening to it and thinking about it. So. Sorry. Into the solo. So that way you can practice playing the lick into the solo. And again, you don't have to improvise with these. You can just learn them as little licks and, or long licks and just work on them. And then eventually work your way up to improvising with them. What is the difference between, in the function between a vamp versus a shout chorus? Well, a vamp is just meant to kind of tread water in between moments, or to intro something or set it up. The shout chorus is specifically supposed to be more climactic and worked out. It's a way to transition, like, it's supposed to be like the most exciting part of the solo, basically. Like you improvise or play a solo for one or two choruses, and then you play a shout to like set things up. And typically it's like to make those first 4 bars really exciting, and then you continue improvising after that. So, so if you're soloing, right, it really stands out as this moment, a sort of orchestrated moment. So let's see. So I hope that kind of explains it. The difference in energy is different too. I mean, like the Vamp is supposed to kind of give you some breathing room, and the shout chorus is supposed to kind of make things more exciting. Yeah, you could use the shout chorus to lead into a solo, like Jan's talking about. Yeah, Barack, sorry. Basically, I'm on the list for everybody from Europe. It's all different. We had our time change. We haven't had our time change yet, and you guys have, so I apologize for that. So yeah, we're wrapping up here. So that is all of the material for this week, plus a bit of a heads up about what's coming. Lots of good questions today, so that's great. And so thanks everyone for being here. Again, apologies to the entire European Union for being on a different schedule and not having the wits to realize it and let everybody know. But go and get the updated version 1.1 of the handout. I'll try to get those last little fixes done for next week. Research on a new forum continues apace, so working on that. And again, leave me your thoughts as far as like working on a tune in C and having to deal with the thumb for the F chord, and we'll take it from there. All right, thanks for being here, everybody. Stay warm. I'll see you